What's this? It's a letter from Zelda. I wonder what it says.
Blue, the Demon King Ganon has taken over Hyrule. I have gone into hiding with Impa until you can find the Triforce of Courage. The Sacred Forest Temple is hidden from anyone's reach. You will need to complete the trials to reveal its location.
Please, I can take anything you throw at me.
For each trial, you must pick one of my games and rank them with each trial starting from least to best. Good luck, brave hero.
What the fuck?
We only got one life. Baby, are we cool enough?
Coming at you!
So, this is the most interesting puzzle I've ever had to solve. And it's not that kind that requires bombs or boomerangs. The reason why is that Zelda games are almost all equal in greatness, because I mean, they're Zelda games. Each game never tries to be a carbon copy of another. Although they can inspire each other, they usually bring something new and exciting. Like my Sonic list, I had to tread carefully as I made this list. Sure, it's my own opinion, but I had to be thorough. I had to really feel the power, the wisdom, the courage. And of course I did. I was born to play these games. And now I'm ready to show the 10 that mean the most to me. These are the top 10 Zelda games. So I think it's an absolute must to include the one that started it all. Not just because it's the first one, but because the beautiful games we play wouldn't be anything without it. Most NES games at the time were simple linear side-scrollers, but that was all changed with The Legend of Zelda, which gave the player the freedom to explore the land of Hyrule, and discover many secret caves and items. I must admit that this concept has its flaws. I don't really think just giving us a sword and setting us on our way with no clear objective is the best way to start us off. But if that stopped gamers, then this wouldn't be what it is. The concept was revolutionary, and it allowed players to really create their own unique experience. The dungeons themselves were very well designed, even if said designs were a bit questionable. This was also the first game to have an internal battery, giving you the ability to save your progress. Incredibly helpful considering how long the damn game is. Ultimately, this was a great start to a legendary franchise, and it completely deserves its spot at number 10 on this list. Game Boy Zelda games are nothing you should overlook. That definitely includes the first one, Link's Awakening. This being the fourth adventure, you'd expect another fun journey through Hyrule with many items and dungeons. Well, yeah, for the most part. The game actually doesn't take place in Hyrule, but instead on Colin Island, a place where Mario enemies, even Kirby, like to chill out. Oh, and let's not forget the giant egg on the mountain. The game looks and plays like a mixture of Zelda 1 and A Link to the Past. Sounds awesome, doesn't it? Well, kind of. The Game Boy graphics are no NES and SNES, but they're pretty good for what was available at the time. The dungeons are very well designed, showing that the Game Boy can rival console dungeon design. The problem is the many moments of pace-breaking item switching. I'll go more into detail when I do a proper review of it, but yeah, it sucks. The quest for the different instruments to wake up the windfish makes the game easier to understand, and it takes that big time over the first game. While many handheld games were simplistic, Link's Awakening brought a whole new experience to the palm of your hand, and that's what puts it at number 9. So now we make the jump to 3D, many years after the actual jump to 3D, but that's besides the point. Fun fact though, Twilight Princess was actually my first Zelda game. Yeah, I know, kinda late, but that's what happens when you start gaming in the early 2000s. Though if it was any game to start with, I'm glad it was Twilight Princess. This game, whether for GameCube or Wii, looks great. It looks like what Zelda is supposed to be, a quest to remove the evil and darkness from Hyrule. The gameplay includes the already established 3D Zelda gameplay. Most of the items from the past return for the usual temple puzzles. However, the biggest gameplay addition is Wolf Link. Wolf Link has exactly the abilities you would expect from Feral Animal. You know, ripping up enemies, lunging, seeing in the dark, making large jumps, and teleporting. Personally, the wolf doesn't compare to the good old sword and shield, but it's still okay. Thank goodness for the wolf though, because in all honesty without it, we'd be playing another Ocarina of Time, minus the Ocarina. Despite that, Twilight Princess is still a great game, and it definitely seals its spot at number 8. So, like I said before, you can't overlook Game Boy Zeldas, and the Oracle games are a prime example as to why you shouldn't. I know what you're probably saying though. I thought this was a top 10 Zelda games, and you're putting 2 games on number 7? And you're right, but hear me out. Oracle of Ages and Oracle Seasons are 2 different games, but the way I see it though is that they're like a Pokemon generation, or more so Sonic 3 and Sonic & Knuckles. I'll get a little more into that in a bit. The Oracle games are prequels to Link's Awakening and definitely show its relation by incorporating its gameplay. The graphics are more beautiful this time as they show off the beautiful colors with the power of the Game Boy Color. Though I did forget to mention Link's Awakening had its own re-release for the Game Boy Color. Both games have their own gimmick to them. Oracle of Ages has time travel, while Oracle of Seasons has season manipulation. In fact, Ages is the more puzzle oriented, while Seasons is the more combat oriented. The stories are interlinkable via a password system. That's actually where I draw a comparison to Sonic 3 and Knuckles. It's not lock-on technology or anything like that, but it's still, getting 2 games to connect and reveal, kind of like get a bigger game out of it. You know what I mean. Once that happens, the real ending of the story is playable. It may seem a little distasteful to have to play 2 games for the full experience, but they are Zelda games, so in the end they're both worth it, and they will combine for number 7 on my list. Yeah, it's my list. I can do whatever I want. Hope you guys don't have motion sickness. Get it? Because you swing your sword with the rear mode and you fly your Loftwing in the sky. Get it? Get it? So Skyward Sword, while not the first Zelda game on the Wii, was the first to really go full swing with motion controls. Get it? Because you swing your sword with the Wii remote? Oh, okay, I'll stop. Admittedly, the motion controls have their crap moments, but then again, that comes with motion controls. It's really not a bad thing. I love when a series adopts a new gimmick as long as it works, and it does. Don't worry, this isn't Sonic Freeriders. Your abilities and items are complemented pretty well by the motion controls. I personally didn't have too much trouble, and not to mention, you really feel like Link in this one. Being able to swing freely is just plain awesome, though the difference between you and Link is that Link won't accidentally let go of the sword and hit his cat 9 times. The aesthetics in this game are incredible. You may say it's more of like a cartoonish style like Twilight Princess, more on the lighter side. The story in this game is definitely one of the best. I mean, I really felt connected to some of the characters like Impa, Grooves, not Fi, and especially Zelda. This was the Zelda I wanted to save the most. If I judged based on story alone, Skyward Sword would take number 1 big time. And it would seem that way with all the good that I have said about this game, but there were 5 others that did the job way better. Skyward Sword flies its way to number 6. So you guys remember when I said, each game never tries to be a carbon copy of another. I was very serious. A Link Between Worlds is not just some simple copy and paste job, it's an indirect sequel to A Link to the Past. It only goes off the formula of its predecessor like most sequels. Okay, now that that's out of the way, let's get to my thoughts on the game. I love this game. I really do. I love it almost as much as I love A Link to the Past. I enjoyed the new story very much. Progression though is almost the same as to the past, but then again, so is Ocarina of Time if you think about it. The item rental had me a bit skeptical at first, but I warmed up to it eventually. I do prefer finding the items in dungeons for that reward factor though. It has this feeling of accomplishment, but not to worry, there's a little bit of that too. The big gimmick of this game is the painting ability, which I love. It's the amazing things that you can do with it. Both the dungeons and the overworld take good advantage of this gimmick. Traveling between Hyrule and Lorule requires finding cracks in the world and walking through them. And if you're wondering if that's all, trust me, it finds its use throughout. You might notice how incredible this game looks. This is actually exactly how I pictured the To The Past remaster, and funny enough, there was no need for an Ocarina of Time 3D treatment. But yes, Between Worlds is an incredible game, and if you don't like it, well then you should go probably live in Lorule yourself, you piece of shit. Yeah, I'm sorry for that. Anyway, Between Worlds pates its mark at number 5. There might be some controversy with this pick. Nah, it's 2016, not 2002, so this should be fine. The Wind Waker was such a surprise when it came out, simply because of its art style. I personally love cel-shaded graphics because it's usually a better alternative than graphics that just won't work. Plus, they age much better. Wind Waker for the GameCube still looks great today. The dungeons, bosses, islands, and the sea itself look incredible in the vibrant colors of the new art style. Of course, graphics aren't the only focal point, but don't worry, gameplay is perfectly fine, and it lives up to the other Zeldas. In fact, I have it at number 4, that means it has to have done better than most. The big gimmick in here is the sea travel, and the use of the titular Wind Waker to change wind direction. It incorporates the exploration aspect of Zelda games that were present since the first, not to mention the beautiful traveling music that accompanies you as you sail. The story is much more lighthearted than others. It does of course allude to the more darker Ocarina of Time throughout the entire game, but it never gets past that and steps into Majora's Mask territory. And just like that, millions of naysayers were proven wrong, and The Wind Waker was an amazing game after all. For me, it sailed its way to number 4. And since I've mentioned this game numerous times during this video, you were probably wondering where it was this whole time, right? Nah, all you Zelda fans know it was top 3 for sure. And that it is. If Zelda 1 and 2 couldn't convince you that Zelda is something special, then A Link to the Past definitely did that job. It was the first in the series to really tell a story, to really indulge you into the legend itself. I mean, the first game is never expected to be the perfect draw, because it's only the first. It hasn't found an identity yet. It's a risk meant to be taken. Of course, Zelda 2 was definitely experimental because again, no identity yet. A Link to the Past refined the formula and finally made the series' identity. Its story is the stuff of legends. It reels you in and you want to indulge into the incredible lore. Hyrule was filled with life, both good and bad, but it makes you want to explore more and more. Your progression was reverted back to the more non-linear approach from Zelda 1, allowing you to explore Hyrule and its dungeons at your own pace and on your own path. Link controls so much better than his NES days, being more versatile with a complete arsenal of items and 8-directional movement. Artistically, this game looks well detailed and well designed as you would expect an NES title to be at this time, and if you remember A Link Between Worlds' aesthetics, you'd understand where it started from. Unfortunately for this masterpiece, if it weren't for the two in front being the incredible games they were, this would easily top the list, but of course, those two exist, so A Link to the Past can sit nice and comfortably at number 3. Now I just gotta mention something real quick. If you love the number graphics, then thank you. It was a great idea in my mind, and I'm glad to see it come true. And obviously if you loved it, then you should know where it's from. That's right, it's Majora's Mask, guys. This game is absolutely amazing, and I know I've said that about every game on here, but this is like those games with whipped cream and a cherry on top. The gameplay is, how should I put it, super freaking awesome.
Super freaking awesome.
It has all that charm of a 3D Zelda game, and then some. Its gimmicks are one of a kind because they're really something you just can't replicate. The first is the 3-day cycle, which is the center of the whole game. You essentially have 72 fucking hours to save the world. A little boost of anxiety in that milkshake. The other gimmick is the masks, which are essentially other characters with new abilities for you to use. It's really creative and only furthers what you can do with the dungeons and other puzzles. Speaking of those, the level design is quite magnificent. Most of the dungeons are well designed and bring the challenge you might be looking for. Unfortunately, the dungeon count is minimal in this game, but the bulk of the game ends up coming from the various side quests to find around the world, and it does justice for every character in this game and brings life to the land of Termina. Yeah, that's right, not Hyrule this time. In fact, the story in this place in actuality is the best in the series. Yeah, sorry Skyward Sword, but Majora's Mask has the best story in all of Zelda. The actions and emotions of the people in the face of the end really makes the story the best in the series, and one of the best overall. And graphically, it's my favorite word, aesthetically pleasing. Yeah, I wasn't gonna forget that one. So you would think after all I've said about this game that it's gotta be the best Zelda game. Of course, this is only number 2, and there's one more that really takes the cake. Before we look at that game, let's look at some honorable mentions that didn't make the list. So if Majora's Mask is a greatness milkshake with whipped cream and a cherry, then Ocarina of Time is a greatness sundae with whipped cream, cherry, and sprinkles. Yes, I know, it's a common choice, but for good reason. Ocarina of Time did everything right for me. I enjoyed absolutely every second of it and never looked back. The story is not the best in the series, that goes to Majora's Mask, but it's up there I'd say. It takes A Link to the Past's refined gameplay in 2D and transitions it flawlessly in 3D. Progression is almost a spitting image of To the Past, with the stone hunting in the first half of the game and the sage rescue in the second half. It still holds up well, and it isn't too difficult of a path to follow. The dungeon designs are my favorite designs in all of the games. They're fun, they can give first-timers quite a challenge, and they have well put together boss battles. And yes, that includes the water temple. I mean, I don't really see what the fuss is all about. I mean, sure, this place isn't the embodiment of tedious, but that adds challenge. The design is pretty incredible to me, and like, it's the water temple. I mean, who doesn't like water? Water levels are the best, and I think I'm gonna go shoot myself in the head right now. Many areas don't look super perfect, unfortunately, because of the limitations, but the game still looks pretty good. N64 graphics were never the best, but I'll be damned if you tell me that my favorite console of all time had bad graphics. The biggest thing about the jump to 3D is always controls, and as I said already, they nailed it. Thanks to the incredible 3D controls, they made Zelda great again, even though it was still great before then. The big gimmick of this game, of course, is the Ocarina of Time. This was really innovative, making something as simple as playing an instrument solve major puzzles and dictate the course of the game overall. Awesome. So yeah, this is my absolute favorite game in the series. Twilight Princess introduced me to the series, A Link to the Past hooked me on, and then Ocarina made me fall in love with Zelda. I mean the series, but you know, Zelda's got my heart too. She can get it anytime. Ocarina of Time is widely regarded as one of the best games, if not the best game ever made for a reason. Though it's still very debatable whether this, Majora's Mask, A Link to the Past, or any of the other games are truly the best one. Although I chose Ocarina, it's a debate that doesn't really matter to me. This list is just for fun, and I honestly believe there's no point in trying to pit them against each other. The series is praised for being a downright masterpiece, and that's how it should be. Mr. Miyamoto, the late Mr. Iwata, and the rest of Nintendo, thank you for 30 years of masterpieces. So, this is the Forest Temple, huh?
Looks like a mansion or something.
True, but the Fire Temple's in a volcano, and the Shadow Temple's in a prison, so it's not that surprising.
Yeah, wait, hold up. What happened to your Link costume and my Zelda costume?
Do you want to do the extra Photoshop stuff?
Nah, you're good.
Thought so. Let's just go.
Don't you have something to say to the viewers first?
Oh, right. Well guys, that concludes my list of the top 10 Zelda games. I assume that not everyone was satisfied with my choices, so I plead you to comment your opinions below. Good or bad, doesn't matter. I got that Triforce of Courage. On a serious note, it was a lot of fun writing and putting this together, so give it some love by slashing that like button down below and sharing it with your friends. I look forward to making more videos like this in the future, and if you also feel that way, go ahead and hookshot that subscribe button down below. These Zelda puns, man. I would also like to thank my best friend Elizabeth for providing her voice. Although her part was small, her role in helping me create this video is a big one. Anything you'd like to say?
It's been fun. Thanks, Ed.
Anyway guys, that's it from us. We've got a forest temple to explore. Thank you guys for watching. Hope you have a wonderful day, and